What happens when a single sentence, spoken without shouting, without drama, brings the most powerful man in the world to the edge of his seat and makes him snap his fingers for security? President Donald Trump didn't realize it yet, but the woman sitting at the far end of the Roosevelt room, her fingers resting lightly on a folder full of letters from fifth graders, was about to unravel his entire carefully staged show. The air in the White House that morning was thick with the kind of tension that comes before a storm. Reporters adjusted their microphones outside the ropes. Aides shuffled papers with nervous energy, and the president himself paced near the head of the polished mahogany table. Already impatient, the event was supposed to be another bland, bipartisan roundtable on education, another photo op, another scripted exchange of polite nods. But Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett hadn't flown in from Dallas on 3 hours of sleep to play nice. She walked in with the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly why she was there. No theatrics, no grand entrance, just a woman in a sharp blazer, a leather folder under her arm, and a question burning in her chest that wouldn't stay buried. The kind of question people whisper in break rooms and PTA meetings but never dare to say in rooms like this. The room was packed with the usual power players, senators with practiced smiles, a secretary of education who looked like she'd stepped out of a press release, and Trump himself, already glancing at his watch. Jasmine took her seat near the end, nodded politely to the Republican rep beside her, and opened her folder. Inside weren't polished talking points or donor-friendly statistics. There were handwritten letters from teachers in her district, scribbled in blue ink, smudged with exhaustion, some even stained with coffee rings. Real stories from real classrooms where kids learned under leaking ceilings, and teachers bought pencils with their own paychecks. When Trump started speaking, it was the same script as always: record funding, school choice, bureaucracy. His voice was loud, but his words felt hollow, like a performance no one really believed in anymore. Jasmine listened, her face unreadable, while others took their turns offering rehearsed praise or mild critiques. Then, when the room expected her to follow the script, she didn't. "Mr. President," she began, her voice steady, "I represent schools where children swelter in classrooms without air conditioning and teachers dig into their own pockets for crayons. We keep hearing about school choice, but what choice do these kids have when their schools are crumbling?" The room froze, not because she'd raised her voice, not because she'd slammed her fist on the table, but because she'd said the quiet part out loud, the part everyone in power had spent years pretending wasn't true. Trump's jaw tightened. He glanced at an aide, then back at her, his fingers tapping the table twice. A signal. 2 security guards materialized near the door, their presence sudden and unmistakable. But Jasmine didn't stand up, didn't shout. She just looked at them, then back at Trump, her gaze unwavering. "I'm not disrupting," she said calmly. "I'm asking a question, and if that makes you uncomfortable, maybe that's the conversation we need to have." The silence that followed was louder than any applause. By the time Jasmine stepped out of the White House gates, the clip had already exploded, not because of a dramatic outburst, but because of its chilling normalcy. A black woman, calm and composed, being treated like a threat for daring to ask why kids in America go to schools that look like abandoned buildings. Teachers across the country posted videos of their own crumbling classrooms, tagging her. Parents flooded school board meetings, repeating her words. Even some conservatives, the ones who'd spent years dismissing liberal complaints, found themselves nodding along. She wasn't yelling, she was just right. But the real power of the moment wasn't in the viral clip, it was in what came after. The principal in Tulsa who played it at a staff meeting and cried. The high schooler in Detroit who quoted her in a college essay. The retired Marine in Nebraska who wrote to his GOP congressman, "If asking about broken desks is radical, what does that make us for tolerating it?" Jasmine hadn't planned to become a symbol. She'd just refused to let the system pretend anymore. When silence is the price of admission to power, what does it really mean to disrupt? And why does the truth scare them so much? Drop your thoughts below. Have you ever seen a moment where someone's quiet honesty changed everything?